When it comes to error handling, depending on the languages, people might rely on exceptions. But I personally hate exceptions because to me it isn't really error handling. It's more like error aborting. Because when you throw an exception, someone lower down the call stack has to catch it. Otherwise, it would just terminate the program. Then the question is, how do you know which function throws and which doesn't? Maybe you can look at the code you're calling. Well, that seems a bit tedious. Well, Java do this by specifying all the possible exceptions a function can throw, which is one way of doing it. But this is worse when you are working with a compiled language and have to deal with binary libraries that can throw exceptions, like C++. So to answer the question I asked earlier on how do you know which function throws and which doesn't, the answer is you don't. When you littered your code base with exceptions, you have no idea which can throw and which cannot. And if you don't know which function can throw, how are you going to handle any errors? Well, they don't, is the answer, because no code is guaranteed to run, since anything can disrupt the control flow of the program. That's why, to me, Python programs are never quote unquote stable, because 5 times out of 10, it throws exception on me when I'm trying to run it. I know it feels good to use exception because you only have to think about the happy path and don't need to think about anything else. But just because you ignore something, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So what other options do you have? Well, in here, this is my project that is a build system that I'm working on at the moment. One of the interesting interesting thing of this project is it is using multiple ways of handling errors, right? So, for example, in this function, so this function is kind of like it's quite a large function. It's like an entry point of some sort. It returns an enum, which is one way of handling it, right? So this is an enum that is like an enum class or something, right? That contains all the possible outcome of this function or other functions that uses this enum. The other way of doing it, in this project is returning a boolean. So for example, if I can find it, I have this resolve script import that is return enum as the same as this function. And but the sub function is using actually just returns a boolean, right? It's very simple. To me, both are way better than exceptions because you are in total control of the flow of the program, right? You know for certain that everything in here will run in sequence unless it's like return or something, right? The good thing about using Boolean is that you don't have to worry about what kind of state a function can return, like what kind of error state. It either works or it doesn't. So that's very simple. But the thing is, it lacks granularity because if the caller of the function want to kind of like know what error happened and want to match in some sort of error type, like for example, if it's like a network error or something, it cannot do that because the only thing it knows is, it failed. So that's kind of like the trade-off it has for both of the way of handling errors. The other way of handling error that I'm trying to integrate into this project is something like a result type, which is quite which is kind of like it kind of common in neural languages. So in here, there's another project that I'm working on that is literally a struct that holds either a return value or a some sort of like error trace, and it's actually quite nice because if I go to one of the examples, um, let's see. So for example, the way of using it is you specify your return value, and if something goes wrong, you can specify what kind of error it is, and the caller can either say can try to use it or can propagate it up the call stack or down the call stack, depending on how you look at which direction you're looking at the call stack. Or if it wants to handle the error, it can check it explicitly, right? Like this. And it can say, handle it for, it can do something different. Either handle it and continue the program or maybe exit with something. Yeah, but it's pretty nice. It's still better than exceptions, right? Because you know again for certain that the program is gonna run the way it shows in here, right? You might ask, well, but how about scripts, right? Like that does it make sense to use exceptions in script? My answer is maybe, depends. Like because to me you can literally do the same thing with print and exit one or exit whatever error code you want, right? Like exit something went wrong or something, right? It's literally the same thing, right? So to me, I still wouldn't use exceptions because it just doesn't really give me anything that is useful. Because I can do the same thing with these two lines. It's just one more line, right? So no, the answer for me personally is no. I would not use exceptions for pretty much anything. It is kind of like a Pandora box because so many languages relies on exception, including C++. And if it's like built into the language, is you cannot really like escape from it, right? And it kind of like it's kind of sad as well, to be honest. But anyway, that's about it for exceptions.